Welcome to this presentation on a revolution in business planning. Forward thinking, reverse engineered. My name is Ewan Mingus and I'll take you through this today. First of all, is this the right presentation for you? Well, if you're currently involved in business planning or planning change, possibly at managing director or CEO level, this is certainly for you. You might be one of those individuals that believes you should be doing this, but maybe you haven't started yet. Well, this is certainly for you if you're in that position of limbo. You may be a large organization or SME, public sector or third sector. It's relevant for each of these organizations. What you will get today? Well, I'm going to show you how to write organizational goals that really focus you on the right things you should be doing, and your team will love them. I'm going to let you see how to reverse engineer your success so that you only focus on the mission critical tasks and you're able to cut away everything else that you should not be doing. You'll see how to identify those tipping points that create unstoppable momentum and spread like wildfire within your organization. I'll show you how to build real value beyond simple sales and marketing activity, and most importantly, how to enable your team to take all this on board. And you'll see how to do this while staying on budget, finishing on time, and meeting stakeholder expectations. No slippage, no overrun, and no shortfall. Now, this might sound like your organization, destination unknown. I speak to so many CEOs, managing directors, and they just don't know where the organization's going. They're so busy, caught up in day-to-day activities. The only thing that's driving their organization, rightly or wrongly, are number targets. And sadly, those number targets don't give your team any direction. They can't understand what it is they should really be doing from a number target that they're aiming at. And as you get your senior management team together to look at what should be done going forward, so often there's this explosion of detail. And the more bodies and the bigger the brains you have around the table, the worse this problem is. As a result, it's often failure to launch because the whole program or the business plan has escalated to a huge level and there's not enough money to deliver it, or there's not enough time. The other problem you might find is that no one's genuinely stepping up and taking responsibility. It always needs you at the helm, directing day to day, week to week, month to month, what should be done. The only gains you ever make at best are incremental, with a sole focus on increasing sales and marketing activity to drive the business on growth. And everything seems to be a slog. It's hard work, it's a lot of effort, and it's a lot of money to achieve anything within your organization. And last but not least, you might just find there's never any significant change happening. The organization seems to look the same today as it did a year ago or 3 years ago. And these are the things that we're going to look at tackling today. Now, as a result of those things, you might feel that you're in one of two places. You're in an absolute spin, juggling and trying to achieve everything, or you're frozen, you're stuck on the spot. And as a result, nothing really changes. It's always business as usual, and it's the same organization now as it was 3 years ago. The real problem is that you've no planning system in place. A strategic tool that gives you clarity of direction and links everything together into a logical and efficient way. Now, once you get your planning system in place, you will see clearly where you're going. You will know how to get there. You will see how to effectively delegate strategic responsibility and enable your team to keep them focused day to day on what they should be doing to work towards those strategic goals. And finally, you'll see what drives real value in your organization. What you need to know is what's involved in your planning system that will deliver your stakeholder needs on time without a ton of work and with the buy-in of your team. And today, I'm going to walk you precisely how to do that. First, let me give you a little bit of background on Concord. What is it? Well, it's an action-based planning system. It's built on science and common sense. And the history of this methodology goes back nearly 30 years, where a chap called Alan Fowler started the development of this. Now, Alan's expertise was in project management way back in the late 80s and early 90s. Through the 90s, he spent time with Ernst Young practicing new tools and methods to run organizations more successfully. In 2002, he set up his own business, Isochron, that took all of those tools and methodologies and combined them into something Alan called D4. Now, D4 means fourth dimension, and it's all about time, the one thing we all struggle with in our organization. In more recent years, myself, my business partner, Tim, we've bought D4 and Isochron from Alan, who continues to advise us on the sidelines, and we've rebranded it and refactored it as Concord. And for us, the future is to take Concord to the world so that it becomes the default planning method. We're doing that through a practitioner network of experienced consultants, advisors, and others who've been highly trained and certificated in this methodology and are currently working across the UK and soon to be internationally. Alan Cave Park puts it very well. The best way to predict the future is to invent it yourself. And this is very much at the heart of what Concord does within organizations. To give you a few examples of clients we've worked with historically and in recent years, you can see here on the board the likes of PwC, NHS, BT. More recently, not-for-profit organizations like ESG, small businesses like Roden Associates, and medium-sized enterprises like Facilicom. Goal setting. What is the future you really want for your organization? Let's look at this in a different way for a minute. If you're going to be buying a new house, do you look for a house that is slightly better, slightly improved from the house you currently live in or own? Do you ever think about what the dream house would look like for you and your family? The house on the right here, you see with those big windows to let the light flood in, that large garden for entertaining guests, and out in the country away from the noise and bustle of the city. So often in business, so many business owners and CEOs that I speak with, they're only ever looking for something slightly better for their business, for their organization than where it currently is. Very rarely do I find someone that is aiming to develop, to build the dream organization so that all stakeholders are delighted with what is delivered at the end of the plan. Now, interestingly, the impact of getting this wrong, in terms of buying a house, you could end up in the wrong neighborhood, you could end up in the wrong town, and for some people, they end up in the wrong country. Long and hard when they start to think about the home that they wish for, it could be in another country, not just another neighborhood or another town. This is just the same for your organization, for your company. If you're not clear on where you're going, there could be so much time, effort, and money wasted in getting you to the wrong destination. Now, numbers are great and we really need them. But for me, numbers should be for a number check and not a number target that influences behaviors within your organization, because it creates unintended consequences. And to give you one very simple example, there was a pizza company who used to promise to deliver your pizza in 30 minutes or less. Now, interestingly, that number target led to an unintended consequence, because the individual who was penalized if the pizza was late was the delivery person. As a result, the delivery drivers began to drive faster, reckless, and accidents occurred. And this is just one small example of unintended consequences of number targets. Number targets also create high pressure environment. And if anyone listening to this has ever been working in a sales environment, which is driven week by week, month by month, on number targets, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Interestingly enough, it also blocks creativity. If your people are simply aiming for a number, they don't think creatively about the solutions, about how they could achieve something much more if they were allowed to think wider than that number target. And the blame culture, we've all seen it. Sadly, some of you will have been part of this, that finger-pointing organization. And so often, the number target is never delivered. Does that sound familiar to you? So let me talk about an alternative. So here's one example of a number target in the UK. All patients in A&E must be seen within 4 hours. Now at this point, you might be rolling your eyes thinking, why does it have to be 4 hours? Why does it have to be any number of hours? What is it that's really important to the customer, the patients, in this example? Here's an alternative. I, the A&E director, walk into A&E and patients tell me they are delighted with the quality of service, and it's dated 1st of June 2020. Now, there's some really important things within that statement. The director is inspecting that this has happened on a precise date. The patients are not just happy, they're telling the director they're delighted with the quality of service. And the team, when they look to be delivering this, it gives them something more tangible that they're aiming for in the future. So let me give you an alternative to those number targets. We call them recognition events. These are pictures that show the desired future of the organization. They're tangible and personal, they're dated in stone, and they're inspected by an impartial inspector. Now, at this point, you're maybe asking, wait a minute, we still need those numbers. We need to be delivering numbers for investors or shareholders. Well, something we do with the recognition events is we connect them, we link them to a cash benefit of that future, and I'll talk about that later today. How you achieve these recognition events, those pictures of the future, is flexible. You have to have an agile plan. Let me give you one example to bring this to life. A large corporate we worked with had to make savings to survive and estimated their best case scenario would be 80 million over 6 years. Now, they had an expert team in-house analysing this, and they didn't believe that anyone would be able to beat that target. Applying this methodology conservatively, we estimated that we could save them 120 million over the 6-year period. So what then happened was we got absolute clarity on end goals for this particular client. And as a result of clarifying those end goals, we discovered ego projects, sacred cows, empire building, and IT solutions that were not aligned with the end goals. And this is about building your house in the wrong neighborhood, town, or country. There was so much activity going on here that was not needed. The outcome was 136 million saving in less than 3 years for that organization. Reverse engineering. So I like to use this example to explain what I mean by reverse engineering. If you look at the maze on the screen, and I'm sure you're already at the start and you're working your way through the various routes, trying to find your way to the end goal. And what you will have discovered whilst forward planning, working forward through the maze, is that you hit lots of dead end. There's lots of wasted time and effort, and all you have to do is get back to the beginning and start again. Hopefully by now you have found your way through this maze, but you've seen that it does waste time and energy. And in business, that means money as well. Let me give you a different maze now. And again, I'd ask you to start at the top right-hand corner and work your way through this maze. Now, what you should be finding is that there are far fewer dead ends. And if anything, the dead ends are much shorter. So there's less wasted time, money, and effort. And by now, you'll all have made it through this maze. The reason is because you are starting at the end this time and working your way back to the beginning. In essence, reverse engineering your success. Now, the interesting thing about most mazes is that they are built so that when you work forwards through them, you hit many, many dead ends. But if you work in reverse from the finish to the start, there are far fewer dead ends. And this principle is exactly the same in planning in your organization. So in your personal life, I'm guessing you're very good at this. Most people are. If you think back to the last time you took a flight, you think about when that flight is, say 5 p.m. in the afternoon. You then ask yourself, how long do I need to check in? That could be 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on your level of risk. You then look at the shuttle bus from the car park into check-in, and then you start to think about driving from your home to the car park. You might consider things like whether it is rush hour traffic or not, and in doing so, you're working backwards from that end goal. It's just the same if you head into your local supermarket to pick up groceries. When you roll your trolley up to the checkout and you start laying things out on the conveyor belt, do you think about the order that you lay things on the conveyor belt? Most people do, because you've got that end goal in mind. When you start to pack things, you want to make sure that you've got all the tins together at the bottom of the bag, and you've got softer items like bread, crisps, and eggs on top at the end. And this is something we're all very good at doing in our personal lives, but we're very poor at doing in business. Let me explain a little bit about the science as to how we do this and how it works. Your brain is remarkable with 100 trillion connections, and it allows you to imagine, to intuit, and to handle paradoxes. As a result, you can hypothesize what would have happened before you get to that end goal. So when we lay out your plan on a single page, we take those recognition events first, plotting them on the right-hand side, and then one in turn, we ask what would have happened before that recognition event, picturing that dream future that you've pulled together that's delivering stakeholder needs. Now, interestingly, what we discover are these things called tipping points. And I'm going to go into more detail in those in just a minute. And these tipping points are all interconnected to each other. Now, to give you a couple of quick examples from clients we've worked with, we spearheaded something that changed society, not the normal activity that comes out of a business plan. A person of influence supported our environmental goals. Again, a little bit different than what you're maybe doing just now. But this is what comes when we hypothesize about how we had got to that future. Very different from traditional planning. Let me give you an example to bring this to life, because maybe you're thinking, I don't believe you, this can't be possible. An SME we worked with was making slow growth with their product and had to find a step change in growth to keep investors happy. You might be able to relate to this. They were skeptical that there was a better way to find growth. They had invested in really excellent commercial managers and growth strategies to drive this product, but they were not seeing it and they didn't believe there was a better way to do it. What we did with backcasting was reverse engineering. We got absolute clarity on what that future was. Now, we focused on the stakeholder growth expectations. We did not focus on solving the problem, which was how to accelerate growth with this particular product. And in doing so, when we worked backwards, we discovered that diversification into new products was the solution that they were looking for, not how to grow and accelerate sales with the existing product they had. So where they were, we predicted, was 2.9 million in growth over 4 years from the initial product that they were looking to sell. With diversifying, we discovered the new product could generate 23 million in sales over that 4-year ROI period. And that's just getting focused on that end goal that brings clarity of what needs to be done. Unstoppable momentum. The domino effect. Now, if you remember back to when you were a child, if you're as old as I am, you will remember the record breakers. And they used to line up these dominoes. And then by just touching one domino, it started this chain reaction where many, many dominoes started to fall over. Interestingly, the same principle can be applied within your business. Now, the example you see here on the screen is where one domino hits 2, then 4, then 8, and 16, and so on. This is a principle called tipping point, which was started by Malcolm Gladwell in the book called Tipping Point. And he speaks about it spreading like wildfire. And another example of this is when you can have small dominoes knocking over dominoes that are bigger. In this example, the smallest domino is just 5 millimeters tall. And then each domino is 1.5 times the size of the one before. Interestingly, in this example, 29 dominoes would mean the last domino was the size of the Empire State Building. And by just that small amount of effort to knock over that first domino, you can knock over all these other dominoes. And for me, I talk about this as creating unstoppable momentum within your business. And this principle can be applied, and it comes from that art of backcasting, of reverse engineering from your end goal. Now, let me give you a little bit about the science on how this happens. I'm sure you've heard of network theory, and you'll most definitely have heard of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, how Kevin is connected to everyone in Hollywood. In your business, we all have shared objects, shared processes, and most importantly, those shared outcomes, the recognition events that we're working towards. These things are all connected in business. And by tweaking just one thing changes everything. The dominoes in the picture on the right here, if you can imagine just lifting one of those dominoes, what happens? Interestingly, if the average button has just one connection, almost the whole system becomes connected. Of course, you've first got to make sure that you're absolutely crystal clear on what that end goal is. What is the recognition event or events of your organization's future? The last thing you want to do is take off at unstoppable momentum in the wrong direction. Let me give you an example to bring this to life for you. An SME we worked with was needing to find a way into multi-location clients to accelerate growth. Up until that point, they were just working with small businesses with one outlet, one location, but they knew that to open the door to multi-location clients would accelerate growth. Now, they've been trying this for a while. They were finding it incredibly difficult to get a foot in the door, let alone close sales. At the point we were speaking to them, they were looking at a digital marketing strategy that would cost in the region of £2,000 or £3,000 a month, and were hesitant about going down that route. So when I first learned about dominoes, I was under the impression that you had to lift these dominoes with a huge amount of effort to then see them falling over, but not at all. What you're looking for are dominoes that are already standing up, that your organization can jump on the back of and grab that momentum and start knocking over all these dominoes within your organization. Now, at this point, you've maybe worked out, but I doubt it because I've yet to find someone who does, what the domino is for this particular client that gave them that unstoppable momentum. Franchising. So this client went out and immediately joined a franchise association with almost 400 franchise systems in it, sponsored an event, featured in newsletters, and attended events and joined networks across that association. Within 3 months, they landed 3 franchise clients, but more importantly, they now had huge momentum to take those successful case studies to everyone else within that franchise association. Creating value. So if you think back to one of the first slides I did, I spoke about these recognition events. When we develop these within an organization, we then put them into what we call a rich picture, like you see here on the screen. This is a picture that shows how the organization will operate in the future when all stakeholder needs have been met and been delivered. What we then do is we put a cash benefit on that future being delivered. If this is how the organization is operating in 3 or 4 years in the future, what will that be worth for the organization? The focus is tangible. It's things that will happen, things that we'll do. It is not a focus on cash. Cash is the outcome of this future. So to calculate that cash benefit, looking at everything that's happening in the future, we ask what the value drivers will be. And we've got 3 areas that we focus on. What you need to do is think about how you're going to build asset value within that future that you've described. Now, this could be things such as intellectual property you may be developing. It could be position in the market. Are you seen as #1 in Scotland for your sector? It could be to do with valuable personnel. Do you have individuals within your business who are expert within an area and could add value to anyone who's adding this company to their own organization? And building the asset value, for most people, we think about what the increase in multiplier on the business valuation is. And it's all the things that you can be doing to increase that multiplier and to increase your business valuation, should you wish to sell in the future. The second area of value drivers is around increasing revenues. And it's much more than just doing sales and marketing. It could be looking at things such as new products. It could be focusing on improved pricing, getting that extra margin, or it could be looking at government funding and grants, which are so important to so many organizations looking to grow. And the third area is around reducing costs, not just your utilities and photocopying, but analyzing deeply things like how you can reduce the cost of sales, how you can reduce that work in progress, or reducing recruitment costs, for example. Now, when we do this with organizations, we run that future picture, that rich picture recognition events through over 79 value drivers. And in doing so, this process leaves no stone unturned. It identifies those future gold mines that will make the difference in terms of creating value in your business. Let me give you an example to bring this to life. An SME we were working with wanted to sell his business, but at present it was unattractive and low value, round about 1.5 million. This chap was desperate to get out. He was second generation. He was working 70 hours a week. He'd never had a holiday, but he had to get out at the right price. And he was willing to give Concord a punt to see if it would make a difference for him. Well, what we did was we identified many new value drivers within his organization. And the result was a cash benefit over the 4-year ROI period. Now, we talk about the delta. Now, that's the difference from where he currently is. And at that time, his monthly turnover was about 100,000 a month, and it had plateaued at that point. When we calculate this improvement, this difference from the current to the future, we're just looking at the improvement with these numbers. It doesn't include where he currently is. So with this chap, we found a reduction in cost of sale, 320,000 over the 4-year period, line improvements, 300,000, fewer production issues, saving of 200,000, and a cash benefit of 4.29 million by changes and improvements in focus at management team level. And there were a few other small things in there, not worth mentioning. The result for this particular business was an increase in valuation to over 8 million. That's from starting at around 1.5 million. They're currently 3.5 years through this 4-year plan. We expect the valuation to be higher than 8 million. Of course, it's only whatever someone would pay, but we think it's going to be around 9 to 10 million. Interestingly, the managing director no longer wants to sell. so often the case when you get to that nice place in business and everything is running smoothly and profitably. Delegate strategic responsibility. Now that you have your single-page graphical plan with those recognition events, pictures of the future, and you've worked it backwards, reverse engineered to identify all those big tipping points, we can start to delegate it. And the first thing we encourage clients to do is print this in A0 and put it on the wall at work where everyone can see it. So everyone is focused strategically on the business day to day. The tipping points are then handed out, delegated to everyone within the organization. And tipping points can go from anyone, from janitor to CEO. Once someone has a tipping point, they decide what needs to be done to achieve it. They tell us when it will be done by. They set the date. They then decide who should do the work within that tipping point. And some tipping points are small and easily done by the individual in charge of it, but others are bigger and need more work and more individuals involved. When deciding who should do the work, the person, the employee in charge of the tipping point can ask anyone internally from janitor to CEO to help out and get that work done. Equally, they can go to external people and organizations to ask for expert support to get that tipping point done. In terms of line management, the line manager is simply asking, how can I help? Is there money that you require? Is there time that you need? Or are there others that you need me to get involved in getting this tipping point done? And in doing so, we genuinely invert the hierarchy and we empower the team, the people, to take forward the strategic plan. Let me give you an example to bring this to life. We worked with a medium-sized enterprise who just could not get their team to take the action needed. There was never enough time, money, or the right focus to do what was needed within the business. They just didn't feel it was ever going to get done. With their backcast plan in place and clear on the cash benefit, we spoke to the head of HR about a tipping point related to recruitment. She knew that to deliver that tipping point, she would need 2 weeks to get the work done, no distractions, and £10,000. But like so many in this situation, she just felt that was as far as she could get because she did not have 2 weeks to spare. She was constantly getting distracted and she did not have £10,000 in her budget. And this is where Concord is very different. So the first thing we asked was, what do you do when you have 2 weeks holiday in the summer? She said, easy, I delegate my work out to others within the team. We asked if it would be okay if she did that in this situation, to which she smiled and said, well, yes, of course. But what about the distractions? So the CEO then arranged for her to get time off-site where she would not be distracted by people knocking on the door or calling or emailing. And then the problem with the £10,000, with Concord, there is no silo working. Money is across the whole business and is linked to the cash benefit of achieving the future. And the CEO on the spot okayed the £10,000 to allow her to get this done. It was delivered within 3 weeks. In summary, what I promised you today was how to write those organizational goals that focus on the right things and your team will love them. How to reverse engineer your success so that you only focus on those mission critical tasks and you can cut away the rest. How to identify those tipping points that create unstoppable momentum and spread like wildfire. How to build real value in your organization, how to enable your team, and how to do all this while staying on budget, finishing on time, and meeting stakeholder expectations. To make winning a habit in your organization, your planning system must have goals that are tangible, personal, dated in stone, and inspected. You must have a plan that is reverse engineered. You must have tipping points that create unstoppable momentum. You must identify where you create the value, looking at those assets, revenues, and reduced costs, and engaging your team strategically to delegate that strategic responsibility. These 5 steps, when done right, will bring about transformational change in your organization. How can I help further? By applying these organizations to your organization. I'd love to catch up with you on the phone and give you an hour of my time to talk about how you can actually apply these to your organization and benefit. This call is only for those who are committed to making a real difference. I get many people ask for my help, but they're never really committed to making change stick. If you are committed to making a difference, I will help you get clarity on your organization's future and how you get there. We'll talk about outlining the steps that you need to take to achieve your future. If you want my help and you feel there is a fit, you may be invited to become a Concord organization after that call. Now, if we work together, you're going to get access to the full Concord system that all the case studies I mentioned today have gone through. This is designed to create and deliver the future your stakeholders want and need. I'll be expecting to see you transform your organization, including team, culture, building value, delivering on time, and meeting stakeholder expectations. This is not about me setting myself up for months and months ahead. All I need to do is drop this system into your organization, train you and your people, and then you can take over from there. Spaces are limited for these calls. Please do secure yours now. Click on the link below or type it into your search bar. Alternatively, please feel free to call on 0131 210 0005, or you can email us inquiries@ctaglobal.net. So again, the best way to book your appointment is to enter the URL into your search engine and book your appointment today. I look forward to speaking to you soon.